Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
Hey,
Hey guys.
Denmark is a tiny
I unplugged and replugged a few things, so I'm just making sure you can hear me, which you can. And audio is
country in Northern Europe, but its mainland size hides the true size of Denmark because while the country itself is
Jesus Christ. Let's go, guys. Geography by Draft. Great channel. Preemptive, like, Denmark's real size is larger than every U.S. state. Than each U.S. state. Well, I mean, Greenland is freaking huge. If you were to ask me what's bigger, Greenland or Alaska, I'd probably have to think about it. No, I'd probably say Greenland. I think it's by far the largest island in the world. Unless you consider Australia an island, which it is a continent. Again, geography channel. I love geography. Fight me in the comments. I am not relenting on this one. I'm not saying that. I always like to learn. I do. But Oceania is not a continent, guys. Not every piece of land on Earth has to be on a continent. Oceania talks about the large amount of land in the South Pacific. In the South, mainly Southwest Pacific, okay? Australia is a continent, all right? I'm sorry. I'm amazed by how many people think I'm wrong on this. Is Oceania a continent? No, it's not. Okay, this is fake news. Okay, anyways,
Denmark is a tiny
it was kind of funny because I was thinking there'd be like some explanations. It just said yes, of which Australia is its main landmass. So Europe is a continent. So is Iceland in Europe? Is Hawaii in North America? Okay, let's go. I embarrassed myself.
tiny country in Northern Europe, but its mainland size hides the true size of Denmark because while the country itself is about half the size of the US state of Maine, it balloons to the 12th largest country in the world when you factor in its distant territories. So what are these territories and why aren't they better known as part of Denmark? To answer that question, we have to first start with the geography of Denmark.
I think even for people who don't know geography that much, I think most people do know Greenland is a Danish territory. Am I giving too much?
When you picture Denmark, you probably first think of the bustling city of Copenhagen. You may also think of large flat islands with tranquil villages in an otherwise pretty cold and rainy region of the world. This is a country celebrated for its high quality of life and a charming, if modest, footprint on the European continent. Indeed, mainland Denmark, comprising the Jutland Peninsula and an archipelago of over 400 islands, with Zealand.
Is that where the Jutes come from? Or is that where Jutland comes from, the Jutes?
Funen and Lolland being among the largest, covers an area of just about 43,000 square kilometers, and its terrain is largely flat, shaped by ancient glaciers with gentle rolling plains, fertile agricultural lands, and a significant coastline stretching thousands of kilometers. In fact, the highest natural point, Mjølhøj, barely reaches 170 meters above sea level, reinforcing the perception of a geographically unassuming nation. But this is just the mainland, a tiny fraction of Denmark's true geographic size. So let's expand out to the next part of Denmark's real size.
Was New Zealand originally founded by Danish explorers, or is that just more of a cultural name from the native New Zealand people.
Faroe Islands. The Faroe Islands are a collection of 18 rugged volcanic islands located far to the northwest in the North Atlantic, about halfway between Iceland and Norway. And unlike Denmark itself, these islands are dramatic, with incredible sea cliffs, deep fjords, and a landscape dominated by basaltic lava flows. While their total land area is only about 1,400 square kilometers, a small addition to Denmark itself, they add a significant and distinct geography to the Danish realm. You see, the Faroes boast a wild, untamed beauty shaped by millennia of
What are those? Or are those like mussel or oyster farms?
volcanic activity and glacial erosion, offering a glimpse into a very different Nordic landscape. Here, the highest point, named Fault Summit in English, rises to 882 meters, a true peak compared to Denmark's gentle hills, but still pretty small on the global scale. Of course, the Faroes are just a relatively small series of islands, nowhere near big enough to make Denmark one of the largest countries in the world. But what if it also owned the largest island in the world? Going even further northwest, across vast stretches of the North Atlantic and over Iceland, lies Greenland, the monumental ice-covered island that utterly transforms Denmark's geographic standing. Greenland is an island of truly staggering proportions, covering an immense area of over 2.1 million square kilometers.
I love this website, True Size of. Obviously, because of Mercator projections, Greenland looks bigger than it is, but it's still huge. Oh, wow. That is interestingly similar to the Louisiana territory that we purchased from Napoleon. Yeah, it's freaking huge. That can go from me to Colorado and down to Louisiana and Wisconsin. Look how huge Africa is, though. So, yeah, I'd say probably similar in size to India. Pretty similar shape. Or Kazakhstan, maybe, probably. Kazakhstan's huge. Yeah, moral of the story, freaking giant.
To put that in perspective, Greenland alone is roughly 50 times the size of mainland Denmark. Its physical geography is dominated by the second largest ice cap in the world, a colossal sheet of ice averaging 1,500 meters thick, and in some places reaching an incredible 4,300 meters. This vast ice cap obscures almost 80% of the island's surface, leaving only a narrow, mountainous, ice-free coastal strip where life and settlements cling to the rugged terrain.
That is wild to me. I know I'm pausing a lot, guys, but
an incredible 4,300 meters.
2 miles. I can't imagine 2 miles of ice. That is incredible.
This vast ice cap obscures almost 80% of the island's surface, leaving only a narrow, mountainous, ice-free coastal strip where life and settlements cling to the rugged terrain. The highest point, Gunnbjornfjeld, an imposing peak in the eastern coastal range, stands at 3,694 meters, a testament to the island's raw, untamed nature. From its dramatic fjords, carved by ancient glaciers, to its active ice sheets constantly calving massive icebergs into the surrounding Arctic waters, Greenland is a land of extreme beauty and formidable scale. So now you know how big Denmark truly is. But then the question becomes, how did Denmark acquire such vast and distant territories if it's so small itself?
That didn't stop the Netherlands from getting a lot of places. New Amsterdam, famously the original name of New York, Dutch origin. Also the Indonesia. The Dutch could do it. And I think there's just a lot of there must have been a lot of, especially when sea levels were lower and there was more ice, there must have been a lot of interaction between Eskimo, Inuit, I'm not sure what the correct term is, just like northern native peoples who live along the Arctic Circle. I'm sure Vikings and those people interacted quite a bit for thousands of years. So yeah.
Denmark's geography is much more expansive than many people realize, making it a fascinating subject to explore. And as a content creator who focuses on telling stories through geography and history, I need visual elements to help me explain complex topics. That's why I've been using story blocks since.
If you want to watch it with me, guys, you can fast forward if you want. It's up to you. But if you do watch it along with me, which I appreciate, please, if you're interested in the sponsor story blocks, make sure to use the original link top of the description. You click his links for his, so he gets his due with this sponsor. Okay, please, guys.
2022. When I'm pulling together a video, having an unlimited source of diverse and high quality videos, photos, and sound effects is incredibly valuable. Whether I need 4K drone footage of some of Greenland's ice caps, or a variety of images to illustrate Denmark's past, Storyblocks has everything I need in one place. If you've seen any of my videos, including this one, you've seen content that's from Storyblocks. But most importantly, having access to Storyblocks allows me to test out different visuals and truly experiment with my creative vision, bringing these geographic narratives to life in a way that resonates with you, my audience. And their clear-cut licensing means I don't have to worry about legal rights, which saves me a lot of time and gives me peace of mind to focus on the story itself. It's a tool that genuinely streamlines my workflow and helps me produce better content for you. So to get started with unlimited stock media downloads at one set price, head to storyblocks.com/Jeff or
I make my own
click the link in the description below.
For once, that could be useful. Great conquests and their consequences.
To understand Denmark's present-day geographic expanse, we have to go back to the early medieval period and the rise of the Norse influence across the North Atlantic. This was arguably the period of time when Nordic influence on the world was at its height, mostly because the Vikings were explorers and expansionists during a time when the rest of Europe was much less interested in the world. Now, despite
the Norse and Germanic people and Nordic people seeing the Western Roman Empire fall, cha-ching, money eyeballs, or
its current
like it's our turn now.
Stewardship, the Faroe was much less interested in the world. Now, despite its current stewardship, the Faroe Islands and Greenland were initially settled by Norsemen, primarily from Norway and Iceland, not the Danes. The Faroe Islands, uninhabited before the 9th century, were colonized by Norwegian Vikings seeking new lands. Greenland, famously explored and named by Eric the Red around 985 CE, after his exile from Iceland, saw the establishment of Norse settlements that persisted for centuries, albeit facing formidable environmental challenges. These settlements maintained ties with their Scandinavian homelands, eventually falling under the loose suzerainty of the Norwegian crown. The crucial turning point for Denmark's future dominion came in 1380, with the formation of the Dano-Norwegian Union. This union occurred when Olaf II of Denmark inherited the Kingdom of Norway, becoming Olaf IV of Norway. This effectively merged the two crowns under a single monarch, and with Norway came its overseas possessions and colonies, the Faroe Islands, Iceland, and Greenland. While
I find this little piece of northern Estonia, or I find Danish, like I see in a lot of videos from a lot of periods of time where Swedes, Danes, Norwegians having influence and territory right here in modern day northern Estonia, which would be really cool.
Overseas possessions and colonies, the Faroe Islands, Iceland, and Greenland. While the Kalmar Union, a broader union of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, would form in 1397, Sweden eventually broke away, leaving Denmark and Norway in a more enduring, albeit increasingly Danish-dominated, union that would last until 1814. Throughout these centuries, while Norway itself maintained a degree of autonomy, its overseas territories became increasingly administered from Copenhagen. As the Norse settlements in Greenland faded by the 1400s, due to a combination of climate change, dwindling resources, and perhaps conflicts with the indigenous Inuit, European contact with the Greenland colonies was lost. However, the Danish-Norwegian crown never relinquished its claim to the vast island. In the early 1700s, a renewed interest in Greenland emerged, driven by a missionary zeal and the prospect of trade. In 1721, the Norwegian missionary Hans Egede, with the support of the Dano-Norwegian Norwegian king, embarked on an expedition to find the lost Norse settlement and convert the native Inuit. This marked the beginning of modern Danish colonization of Greenland, establishing trading posts and missions that solidified Danish control over the entire island, often isolating it from the outside world. But the moment that cemented the Faroe Islands and Greenland firmly within the Danish realm occurred in the aftermath of the Napoleonic Wars. You see, Denmark, Norway had allied with Napoleon, a decision that proved disastrous. Following Napoleon's defeat, the victorious powers, particularly Sweden and Great Britain, sought to redraw the map of Northern Europe. The Treaty of Kiel, signed on January 14, 1814, was a harsh blow to Denmark. In this treaty, Denmark was forced to cede Norway to Sweden. However,
I am embarrassingly unaware of that, because I've learned a good amount about the Napoleonic Wars. But I didn't know about the Danish being allied with Napoleon, and I probably heard it, and I didn't know about the repercussions with obviously Sweden, famously with Bernadotte, one of Napoleon's marshals, switching sides, or some Swedes get angry when I say he switched sides or betrayed Napoleon. Sorry, but obviously that Sweden was an obvious power against Napoleon towards the end. Didn't know this about it.
And critically,
Denmark.
The treaty explicitly stipulated that Norway's ancient dependencies, the Faroe Islands, Iceland, and Greenland, would remain with Denmark. This was largely due to British strategic interests, as
Classic.
they did not wish to see Sweden's power in the North Atlantic grow excessively.
Classic. Britain is always playing chess when others are playing checkers. Well, at this time. The same reason, was it Talleyrand of France? And then you had Castlereagh, and then you had the guy, Metternich in Austria, who, when, it was, the French under Napoleon versus the British, the Austrians, the Prussians, and the Russians, right? Those were the main ones, and the Swedes too, and some places in Italy, and Portugal, Spain. The point is that although France just caused enormous destruction, probably never seen before in such a little amount of time, prior to the Napoleonic Wars, maybe the 30 Years' War, but they purposely didn't punish France too much, because Austria and Britain were afraid that if there's too weak of a France, then Prussia and Russia will take control of that, and what they wanted to make sure Prussia and Russia didn't get too strong. So again, Britain always playing this game that's so overpowered. It's like a cheat code. It's like, in order to invade England, you got to cross the water. Just so happens the British are the kings of the water for so much time, and so it's just. And then along with their colonies and huge amount of money, naval power, trade power, they can just play like the kind of proxy or money game, and just making sure there's no vacuum too big enough for someone to get too strong.
It was more advantageous for Britain to keep the territories, which were deemed mostly worthless at the time, with a weakened and struggling Denmark. Thus, a historic twist of fate, combined with centuries of inherited claims and strategic geopolitical considerations, meant that while Denmark lost its direct union with Norway, it retained the vast, distant territories that were founded by Norway. The Faroe Islands, already integral to the Danish realm, continued under Danish administration. Greenland, once a distant, vaguely claimed territory, became an undisputed Danish possession, formally integrated into the Danish state as a colony. From that point forward, Denmark's responsibility for these far-flung lands was firmly established. But they haven't always been the easiest to manage, especially from such a small and distant mainland country.
Make the Navy. Also, same goes for maintaining a strong West Germany and a strong Japan after World War II. They didn't want the Soviets to take too much advantage. I'm sure there were a lot of other instances too.
The Kingdom of Denmark, a phrase often heard but seldom fully appreciated, refers to a unique constitutional arrangement that unites three distinct geographic and cultural entities: Denmark proper, the Faroe Islands, and Greenland. While mainland Denmark operates as a highly developed, modern European country, its relationship with its North Atlantic territories is a nuanced system of direct sovereignty with extensive self-governance. In other words, it's a very delicate tightrope that Denmark tries to manage. At the heart of this arrangement is the Danish Constitution of 1953, which defines Denmark as a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system. The monarch, currently King Frederik X, serves as the ceremonial head of state, while real political power rests with the Danish parliament, led by a prime minister. This makes Denmark a unitary state, but with significant devolution of powers to its regions and municipalities, and crucially, to its self-governing territories, the Faroe Islands and Greenland. The Faroe Islands were granted home rule in 1948, followed by Greenland in 1979. These arrangements weren't merely administrative decentralization. They represented a significant transfer of legislative and executive authority from Copenhagen to Tórshavn, the capital of the Faroe Islands, and Nuuk, the capital of Greenland. Because of this, both the Faroe Islands and Greenland have their own democratically elected parliaments and their own governments. Under these self-government acts, Nuuk, the capital of Greenland. Because of this, both the Faroe Islands and Greenland have their own democratically elected parliaments and their own governments.
It is home to about 35% of Greenland's total population, as mixed Democrat, both Inuit and Danish. Many Danish people are attracted to Nuuk for employment opportunities. They're not giving me like a percentage here. I was just curious because
under these self-government acts, the Faroese and Greenland did Finland.
I thought a self-elected person in Nuuk would probably be an Inuit, but I mean, maybe I'm just implying if you're like from one culture or race, you got to vote for one. You know what I mean?
Own governments. Under these self-government acts, the Faroese and Greenlandic authorities have assumed responsibility for a wide array of domestic affairs. This includes, but is not limited to, local government, taxation, public services like education and healthcare, social welfare, housing, environmental protection, and, crucial to their economies, fisheries. They can enact their own laws in these areas, which carry the same legal weight as Danish acts. This allows each territory to tailor policies and regulations to their unique needs, geographic realities, and economic priorities. But despite their autonomy, certain things continue to remain under the jurisdiction of the Danish central government. These typically encompass core aspects of a sovereign state: constitutional matters, foreign policy, defense, the Supreme Court system, and monetary policy. However, even in these areas, there is a strong emphasis on cooperation and consultation. For instance, while Denmark conducts foreign policy for the entire realm, representatives from the Faroese and Greenlandic governments are often included in Danish delegations for international discussions, particularly on matters that directly affect their interests, such as fishing rights or Arctic affairs. Both territories also send 2 elected representatives each to the Danish parliament, providing them with a direct voice in the central parliament. Economically, both the Faroe Islands and Greenland maintain strong yet distinct ties with Denmark. Denmark provides significant annual block grants to both territories, which are crucial for their public budgets and help maintain their welfare systems, similar to Denmark's own. However, there is a clear intention for these grants to decrease as the territories develop their own economies and assume more financial responsibility for the devolved areas. Both the Faroe Islands and Greenland are heavily reliant on the fishing industry, making their economies susceptible to fluctuations in fish stocks and global markets. Efforts are continuously being made to diversify their economies, with Greenland in particular exploring opportunities in mining for valuable mineral resources and tourism. A notable distinction
What'd you say? American, sorry, Americans listening is like, wait, what was that?
Continuously being made to diversify their economies, with Greenland in particular
Who
exploring
cares?
opportunities in mining for valuable mineral resources.
I'm making a joke, obviously, but yeah, there's gonna be a whole lot of resources up there under the ice, and a lot of fishing area, and you have access to the Arctic Circle, which is going to become more and more relevant. And a giant relevance of a passage in the Arctic is going to be the Northwest Passage. You and Canada having the only two ones that are kind of have jurisdiction over that. Greenland, big. If Greenland was a stock, I would invest a lot of money.
And tourism. A notable distinction also exists in their relationship with the European Union. While Denmark is a member of the EU, neither the Faroe Islands nor Greenland are. The Faroe Islands opted out when Denmark joined the European community in 1973, reflecting a desire to maintain full control over their rich fishing grounds. Greenland, which initially joined with Denmark, subsequently left in 1985 after gaining home rule, driven by similar concerns regarding fisheries policy. This further underscores their autonomy within the kingdom. Today, the entire kingdom of Denmark is home to just a driven by similar concerns regarding fisheries policy. This further underscores their autonomy within the kingdom. Today, the entire kingdom of Denmark is home to just a little over 6.1 million people total, but this number is not spread equally. In fact, it's heavily tilted towards Denmark proper with about 6 million people, leaving just over 50,000 people each for the Faroe Islands and Greenland. This makes Greenland specifically the least densely populated region in the entire world.
Antarctica? Maybe this island right here? I mean, yeah. I don't know why I'm trying to be like, yeah, but it's definitely close.
Denmark is secretly huge, at least as far as the Kingdom of Denmark is concerned. But because of a series of autonomy bills, the actual country of Denmark is still quite small. Greenland and the Faroe Islands are their own entities. Mostly. Speaking of Europe, this week I'm in the Netherlands and also Belgium. Kind of both actually, because I'm exploring the bizarre town with one of the craziest borders in the entire world, Barl-Hertog and Barl-Nassau. And you should come join me over on my travel channel. I hope you enjoyed learning all about Denmark's hidden size. If you did, be sure to check out this video all about why Europe might freeze in the future. Thanks for
because changes in the path of the Gulf Stream, possibly. Yeah. So I live in southern New England, which is in the northeast. Like, it's north, right? And if you go over, I always mix up latitude and longitude. Latitude, lateral. So I'm like on the same latitude as like Barcelona or Madrid. Even though, the weather is way warmer because of the Gulf Stream. And it's got to be because of the Mediterranean, too, which is, getting baked by the Sahara heat and whatnot. And warm air from the Sahara, I'm sure, moves in. Very interesting video. So when it comes to territories like this, and when...
responsibility for
obviously, unlike some stupid Americans, yeah, Greenland is a part of Denmark. But it's a situation where, especially nowadays, where, the term neocolonialism, like, pure colonialism isn't a thing anymore. It's neocolonialism, which is essentially the same thing as colonialism. It's just you can't be as ruthless and you got to worry about your image way more. And if you're Denmark, Greenland will give Denmark so much less power in the future if they don't have it. So as much as they do send stuff there, I'd love to see if you guys know more than me, which you probably do if you're from Denmark, or especially if you're from like Greenland. Love to hear it. But Greenland is so valuable these days and is only going to go up in value. That I'm not even sure if they would accept if they all wanted to leave. I don't know what they would do, but I mean that's you don't want to lose that. Very interesting. Love y'all. Would appreciate any comments down below. I'm one person. I say things. I'm not an expert. I just speak. My brain talks. So if anything I said was just stupid, I hope I didn't say too many stupid things. Call me out in the comments. If you disagree with me, call me out in the comments. If you want to answer any of my questions in the comments, you guys are always awesome. It's probably one of, I love getting, views on videos. I love getting likes, but it's the amount of comments that I get that I never thought I would. And so many of them are helpful and nice, and I makes me so happy that people enjoy watching stuff with me, even when I pause a lot, like in this video. So, love y'all. See you guys next time. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.